torch attracted huge crowds throughout the streets of London today and huge controversy. Police did anticipate some protests from Tibetans and their supporters, but even the police couldn't have guessed how many people would turn out to demonstrate against China or how aggressive they would be. The CBC's Anne McMillan has your top story tonight.
I now declare the London Torch Relay open.
It's supposed to be a symbol of world peace and harmony, but not today. From the moment the Olympic torch started its journey across London, there was trouble. First, protesters opposed to China's crackdown in Tibet tried to jump on a bus carrying the torch.
Stop the torch going into Tibet!
Then a man wielding a fire extinguisher nearly put the flame out. London bobbies in yellow jackets and Chinese escorts in blue and white hustled him away.
Try to put the flame out with a fire extinguisher because China has no right to do what it's doing.
Further on, a celebrity was stopped in her tracks when a protester tried to grab the torch. He too was dragged off unceremoniously.
I wasn't expecting to be wrestled, but I guess people feel very, very strongly about China and their human rights record.
By the time the torch reached 10 Downing Street, home of the British Prime Minister, police had stepped up their presence even more.
Get back! Get back! Get back!
Gordon Brown greeted but did not touch the torch. He's resisted calls for Britain to boycott Olympic opening ceremonies in Beijing. The next Summer Games are in London in 2012. At Trafalgar Square, it was a struggle to keep anti-China groups away from hundreds of Chinese who support their country and the Olympics.
We are Chinese and we are proud of our country hosting the Olympics in Beijing this year.
The Chinese ambassador to Britain briefly carried the torch, but only after a last-minute change of location. All along the 50-kilometer route, police struggled to keep the protesters at bay. Tennis star Tim Henman was disappointed that the torch relay became a focus for anti-Chinese dissent.
Mixing sport and politics is a bad mix, and you know, I think for an athlete to participate in the Olympics is one of the greatest honours.
Free Tibet! Chinese out!
While the torch headed across London, Tibetans and their supporters from all over the world held a peaceful protest.
Free Tibet!
Canadian Ladon Teton, a leading activist, lit a freedom torch and called on China to abandon plans to take the Olympic torch through Tibet.
What we're calling for is no torch through Tibet, and for world leaders to boycott the opening ceremonies of the Games at least.
The Olympic flame will be in Paris tomorrow, where more protests are expected. French President Nicolas Sarkozy has already said that France and other European countries might boycott the opening ceremonies in Beijing unless China improves human rights in Tibet and at home. Anne McMillan, CBC News, London.
The London leg of the torch relay got a lot of attention today around the world, but in China, there was no mention of any protests. If you watched the news on Chinese state TV, you only heard about how well it went. And when asked about the torch scuffles on the street, well, most people had no idea.